All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is our second day of our Teachers Supporting Teachers Collab-o-rama series. Kudos to Liz for coming up with the term Collab-o-rama. This is her second term she's come up with. First, she came up with Zoomapalooza, and now Collab-o-rama. So tune in for next week for the new word. We're excited. Today, we are going to present on Google Classroom and with a focus on our elementary school, elementary age kiddos. And I'm really thrilled that we have Rosie Barnes from Haycox and Missy Hernandez from Williams that are going to be sharing what they're up to on Google Classroom.
And with that, I want to introduce someone who totally embraces the new learning is good for the brain. And that is Rosie Barnes. Rosie is a 5th grade teacher at Haycox. She's been using Google Classroom for probably several years and has a few ideas to share with you about how she uses questions, materials, and assignment posts. Rosie, take it away.
Take it away. Well, hi, thank you for having me today. So the 3 things that I would like to share are how I use the question as a check-in. I'm going to share how I post materials and videos, and I'm also going to share how I created Google Slides for like a monthly journal, and those are the 3 things that I'll be sharing today. So my check-in question I've been using for a few years now. At first I started using a Google form, but I just decided to kind of switch over to just a question. So I ask the students every day how they are doing. So here on the slide, you can see one of my questions posted last week. So I like to change it every day. The second question, I like to change it. And I always like to add a sentence frame. I have several students in my classroom who are newcomers or need that sentence frame to answer my question. And it's been very successful. I usually in the classroom, I check it while they're eating their breakfast. They check in right away. So right now, they just, as soon as they check in, I get an alert and I get to reply back and tell them, thank you for checking in. So you can see here, I have about 15 students that turned in the question, and on the left, I can see if they turned it in, and on the right, I can see their comments. So like one of my students, I'm feeling awesome. One thing I'm thankful for is life. So I get to see what they're thankful for. For example, this was a Tuesday, what they're thankful for. And I really enjoy reading, and right now I enjoy answering them back right away. Here's some more responses. I'm feeling great. One thing, and as you can see, sometimes they use the sentence frame and sometimes they don't. Especially my one student, if you can see it in the middle of the page, he actually wrote it in Spanish. So it's kind of cool that he's using the Spanish sentence frame because he's learning how to write in English right now. So I also have the opportunity right now to give them provide a private comment for them. And usually in the classroom, I would like talk to them about their check-in, but since I can't talk to them every day and when they answer, then this is my way to kind of like, I'm glad you're feeling good. I wonder the same thing. And so I kind of like pose a challenge for them, or, if something that they're wondering about. In this case, it was a wondering question. And so I get to give and provide a private comment. I post materials. This is my schedule right now. I'm changing my schedule, how I post my assignments, but this was last week, so first day. I decided to do it by day. My students like it because they can just go in and kind of like a little check mark. They make sure they do everything every day. So I posted some assignments, and on the left where the arrow is pointing, that's the material. So I talked to the students about what those icons mean, so that way they know, like, okay, I have to turn this in, or this is just material. This is a reminder for me to work. So when I posted the Khan Academy link to our classroom, they're able to open it up, and this is what it looks like. And then they will click on the link, and it takes them to a new tab. They view the material in the classwork, and then this is the next page. The page right now that you see is the page where they would, once they click on it, this opens up, and then they have to go to the link. So that's one way that I post my materials in the Google Classroom. Then I've also posted specific materials to students, to specific students. So here at the beginning of the year, or about November, I posted some videos for my newcomers. I posted some songs, some YouTube videos, and you can see that it's posted. I posted to only 7 students, and then I edited in January because I had a new student coming from El Salvador, so I wanted her to get those, to have access to those also. So you see on the second set, there's like 4 students because I ended up adding more students to that group. And this is always something that I like to do to help my students. Like, it's there for you, so watch them, use them, and it's a way to differentiate instruction. This is an example of an assignment that I gave my students last week, and you can see that it's not due till this Thursday, so they're able to access that journal. So I made a copy for each one. And
When you created the assignment, you attached the slides and then chose make a copy for each student.
Yeah, and then I made a copy for each student, yeah. And then this is what they get. And so pretty much what I did is I converted a fun PDF that you used to use in the classroom to a Google slide. And they go in, and so actually this week I'm going to teach them how to draw pictures on their journal, because that's one of the parts that they miss, is actually drawing the pictures. They're doing well. Some of them are writing and typing, and that's just one example of me using the assignment feature in Google Classroom. Any questions?
I forgot to tell you guys, that's supposed to be my part of my thought of the day. If you have any questions as we go, put them in chat. So let's take a second. If you have any questions, clarifying or suggestion, how you have done something similar, put those in chat and Helen will share them in a second.
Rosie, a question about Khan Academy. Can you talk a little more in detail about why you chose that, how you're using it, how the kids are responding to it?
I started using Khan Academy in the classroom. So the students would, right when they walk in after PE, they would get on Khan Academy for about 10-15 minutes, and I would assign assignments. So for example, if I already taught decimals and I assigned a decimal lesson for them to just kind of review, not forget their learning, and they would work on it. It's kind of cool the way that Khan Academy is set up, because they do a video, practice, and then a quiz. So even through the practice, they have the video ready for them. They can keep watching the video, and that's something that I suggest for them. Sometimes I can I can teach them a lesson, and the way that I explain it is it's way different than the video. So I like to show them different ways of providing the information, so that way they can be successful.
And how do you feel the kids are responding to it? Do they enjoy it, or?
So far during this distant learning, every Friday, one of my check-in questions is, what did you learn this week? And sure enough, some of them have posted that, in Khan Academy, I learned about decimals or adding decimals, something that we did, at the beginning of the year, but I'm reviewing still with them now. So it seems to be like they like it, especially the videos, because they can replay. And right now it's helpful.
Okay. And Deidre had a question about your response rate. What kind of response rate? She says she's getting anywhere between 25 to 60% submissions, depending on the activity. What percent approximately a response rate are you seeing?
Last week is like one of those questions was about 15 to 17. So it's about half, 50%. But the other half that's not responding, most of them don't have hotspots. So they're not able to check in virtually. So once they get their hotspots, I'm hoping that my percentage will go up.
And we had another question on Khan Academy. Is it only for upper grade?
I believe it's not. And they even have language arts. So I've been trying to look at some of the trainings that they have, and they have a lot of things out there right now. I know I use it for math, But I believe it's, I want to say I watched the training a couple weeks ago, and I think it's like somebody's mentioned something about first grade, second
Right.
grade. So
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
We actually, starting this coming year, are in a partnership with, are forming a partnership with Khan Academy. We're pretty excited about, and I'm also excited, along with the math, that they are adding the English language arts, and they're going to be providing some professional learning to our teachers that we're working with them to get set up. So more to come on that. I'm excited to see that you've already started with them. We have another question about the writing assignment. Is that licensed, or a copy? Is that something that you could share with another teacher, that writing assignment paper?
Yes, I can share it. It's one of those choice boards, writing choice boards. My students love those. They love to choose what they want to write about. So I converted the PDF and I put it into a Google slide, and I like it, and yeah, I could totally share that.
Robert was commenting that he has about that same percentage, but he feels that the reason being is because it's the first week back. But good news, Robert has 26 out of 27 students now enrolled in his Google Classroom, so he's anticipating that.
Good.
Yeah, part of the challenge will be to make sure to find out, where is that 27th student, and that's where those weekly check-ins and phone calls. I think we could have a whole presentation on just how we can get that 27th kid connected. Okay.
Yes,
that is all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. So our second sharer is Missy Hernandez, who's also a 5th grade teacher at Williams Elementary.
So piggybacking on what you guys were discussing about Khan Academy, I'm using that as well. Before I get started with my own presentation, there is language arts that I'm using right now. I'm starting out with grammar. So my students are learning about conjunction. And this week our focus is subordinating conjunction. So I'm sharing some of those videos with students. And I use it for math as well. And I love it because there's videos and there's also practice link that they can do online, which is really cool. So if you haven't used Khan Academy, it's very, very useful, especially for distance learning. So with my presentation today, there are 3 ideas I'm going to be sharing, which is organization and how I organize my lessons. I decided to use my integrated unit 5, and you guys know I'm very passionate about that. So all I did was transition it into a distance learning. And so I'm going to be sharing how I did that and how I organized my unit into a weekly lesson. And for collaboration, I really wanted to mimic how I do in the classroom. So collaboration is like a big part in my class. And I think it's a really good tool for students, and it's a good motivation for them. And also I'm going to be sharing actual assignments that students have done. I started a little ahead than everyone because I already planned to do virtual teaching, because you guys know I've been out since December and I really wanted to get into teaching. And I promised my students that I wanted to teach them while I was at home. So right away at March 16, I was already front loading unit 5. So for organization, let me show you my unit planning. I use backwards planning. This is my integrated unit curriculum, and I have all my standards. I always use my standards to guide my instruction. I think then you can use different resources. As you can see here, there's also math. Since Vince is not with me, so I'm teaching math as well for distance learning. And there's also art integrated in the unit. And I'll show you some of those assignments later. Moving on to the weekly lesson, and how does that look like? So this is how I send this, a document like this every week to my students and their parents. So students get this. So it's easy for my students to go through what it is that they need to do daily. And I hyperlinked those assignments. So if they click here, it will take them to Google Classroom. So Helen and Liz have done such a great job with so many optional resources for our students. So what I've done in Google Classroom is I put those together so it's easier for my students to get to it. So all the independent reading resources for them are all in one place, which is in Google Classroom. And they can click on any of those. And a lot of them usually they share, they post them in stream. And they go there and they tell me what they're reading and stuff like that. And let me show you another one here. Here's another optional place that they can go. And here are some of those recommended websites or activities. If you guys see, we have our virtual learning here, and this is the new one, the HPE at home. I added that recently. So as Liz and Helen give us ideas, I kind of put it here, I added. And this one, a lot of my students love science and STEAM activities. And this is, let me show you the actual one. I got this from VCOE, and everything is hyperlinked. So students can actually go on there and follow the step-by-step direction that they can do on their own. And virtual field trip, I think this is their favorite. And I only have 2 resources. So if you guys have other resources, I would love to have it. So I can add it here. And a lot of my students love to visit, and they went to see Paris, Eiffel Tower, and they're so excited about that. So those are how I organize my lesson and how I organize certain things in Google Classroom. So collaboration is something that's really important in my class. We do a lot of sharing. So in distance learning, at first I felt like, how can we do that? So what I've done is I would create a Google Doc. And on this lesson, this is due today. So I actually created instructional video using Screencastify. And I went through the whole facts or opinion. This is introduction to our opinion writing. And then students, actually, we did a collaborative sharing ideas. So students posted their ideas here in one document, so it's easier for to see. And actually, I used this collaborative ideas during my virtual lessons with my students. So I think it's really powerful that we use student ideas when we're teaching. So I think it's more the kids are more likely to participate, and they get really excited when I use theirs. It's good for engagement, so students are, and then here it's also good formative assessment where you can just see, okay, do they know how to form an opinion? And so you can really quickly in one document and use it as a teaching tool as well. And so that's one way for collaboration that I use with my students. Another one is I use Google Slide. This is the one we're doing next week. We're going to be reading about the Bill of Rights, and also reading from Mozilla and other resources that I'm giving them. And this is going to be students have their names on it, and they're going to write an image, and they're going to write what they've learned from the article and the video. Then I'm going to use this as a learning tool during our virtual lesson. Collaboration also happens in stream. Part of, it's too big, I don't know if you guys can see that. And I just post, a video, so I could scroll down. And this is how I front-loaded opinion writing. I just started asking them opinion questions with my students. And on this one, I did a instructional video, how to use, our Google Classroom and some of the resources they have there. And so I just wrote here, in your opinion, do you think video recorded and structured messages can be helpful during distance learning? And students, participated on that. So I got some feedback, how they feel about that. And so it's a survey at the same time, and also front-loading opinion writing here. we did several of those, and this is another one while I was still front loading for opinion writing. And now I'm connecting what they're experiencing with coronavirus, and students were really, really excited about to put their opinion about that and to share what they're going through. And or just post some memo or video. This one created a video because I realized that how students are going to turn in their assignments using an iPad is really different from if you were using a PC. So, because I got that information from some of the parents, I got an email saying their student was having a hard time sending the assignment. So I created a video for my students on how, step by step, on how to turn in their assignments using their iPad. So that's collaboration, and I'm going to show you some assignments that we've done. First, in my class during the school year, my students do a lot of investigation. That's a really big thing, hands-on activities for my students, and I really don't want that to go away. So this time for distance learning, it's more independent. So, and here's one of the lessons. This is, I think, this is when I was starting the unit for shadow, and my students, all they did was they watched a video. And there's no sound in this actually. All they're doing is doing an observation of how the shadow is moving. I'm not going to play the whole thing. And with that, students used a graphic organizer to write what they observe and what they wonder. And I'll show you some student responses in a little bit. And here's a student example. Just to let you know, my students used this quite a bit while I was in the classroom the first 3 months. So they know how to use this this tool already. So I always, like Rosie, I always use sentence frames. I think it gets them in the habit of writing perfect sentences. Well, not perfect, but complete sentences. So they put their wondering and their observation. And for part 2, students had to do their own investigation on their own. So I created this assignment where they can, give some options here, and they can observe the shadow by using a family member or their own shadow or an object. And they did that on their own. And here's one of the examples here. One of my students actually used a marker to make an observation with shadow, and he recorded that and wrote his own conclusion. And here is when students read an article, they also write what they've learned and how could that help them. Those are some examples. Okay, on list of other examples. And graphic organizers are really big in my class. So let me show you some ELA example. And I used these graphic organizers during my instruction, virtual instruction as well. And this one is about understanding characters, one of our standards that we're doing. And so students will write their description here. And one more thing that I wanted to show you that's important. I think, just want to mention, I think comments is really important when you're returning back assignments in Google Classroom. My students really appreciate those comments, and it really gets them excited that, oh, Mrs. Hernandez is actually reading it and she liked what I wrote and they wanted to be better next time also. Just one more on this slide. And KWL, some of you know that. I use that as well. So I use a lot of graphic organizers. Like I said, these are tools that I've used in my class. And for But Not Buddy, we do the novel study. And let me just show you. On this link, I have when I loaded the novel, I have a PowerPoint here that we went over. And here's the book. And also this is their journal that they use. And in this journal, I integrated different standards. And it's basically just answering some of these questions. And there's some opinion here, questions that they're going to answer, summary, and making connections with science and things like that, and making connection with themselves, with Bud. And here I also provided audio for my students, and the graphic organizers that we're going to be using are also posted here. What I'm really excited about is the portfolio. This is going to be our authentic assessment. Like I mentioned earlier, my students are going to present these, and what I did is I created a video on how to edit this, because what I did is I created my own, and just for students to use as an example. What they can do is they can edit this to make their own, and their goals are really important in my class as well. I want them to set goals for the units. And one thing I wanted to know how they feel about distance learning. Unit theme, making connections. And if you notice here, they're going to use the graphic organizers and they're going to upload it here. That's our portfolio. Can't wait to see it. Last year we did the actual portfolio in the box and some materials and things that they've done in the classroom.
All right, couple questions. Someone noticed that you had Seesaw, some assignments from Seesaw. Can you talk about how you use Seesaw with Google Classroom, or if that's
yes, what I do is I just link the Seesaw. It's I use it for assessment. So student record their understanding. I use it mainly for science, and so they record their understanding on the standard that we're working on for Seesaw. That's what I'm using it for formative assessment.
And there was a question about when students submit their work, how do you handle sending it back for revision?
Oh, I actually, what I do is I write in the comments. So I said the comments is really important. And once you return it, the students can actually go to Google Drive and they can edit their work. And I don't think they can I think they can resubmit, yes, because our student already resubmitted one of his work if they needed to revise it.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
No, we are done. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Liz, do you want to show?
I do. Missy, can you
mission control?
Can you put the screen back to me? I forgot that I was going to demonstrate the mission control. All right. So mission control, bit.ly/HESD mission 20. Okay. If you haven't found that link, it is in every tech newsletter. When it opens, the resources are in Blastoff PD for distance learning. Everything, oopsies, or we can click there. Everything we've been doing with Teachers Supporting Teachers, I've been posting on this page. So I'll give it a second to load because there are a lot of thumbnails. These are all links to YouTube recordings or the Google Slides. Okay, we'll have the recording for today right here and the Google Slides will be right here. We've got our Collab-o-ramas for Seesaw down here. The social and emotional learning that we were talking about is down here. Here's the recording of the session last week. But the last thing I want to show you in resources for teachers, you can go to the social and emotional learning page. And there's some resources here. First of all, this counseling corner, this is for students and families. So if you have students and families who need a way to connect to their counselors or they need some resources, anyone who's having any kind of challenge that they express to you, maybe in one of those check-in forms, send them on a little mission. Go, hey, will you go check out this Counseling Corner website, see if there's anything useful for you. Helen, what's the room? The calming room, the...
Oh, yes. That's under their apps. If you go to the Counseling Corner and they have apps listed, there's an incredible calming room app.
Calming room. That's what I was thinking of.
Dave Castellano just checked in. He said it's called the virtual calming room.
Nice.
Oh, so good. And
Okay.
to the right where it says virtual connection activities, that's where I was getting those activities to start off our trainings.
Okay. So some great resources here. I'm in the social and emotional learning and resources for teachers. I want you to check out the PD for DL for learning. Also in pre-flight information, if you're, okay, I want to use an assignment, I'm not sure how, I want to use a question, come here to pre-flight information to Google Classroom. And it's all right there also, okay? So that was bit.ly/HESD mission 20, right? HESD, mission for mission control, 20 for our year. All right? So there are some resources there for you to carry on. And then listen, we really want to thank Rosie and Missy. Thank you so much for sharing those great ideas and examples. I hope they've helped you think of some places to start and some things to do. You can email Rosie or Missy. You can always email me. Helen jokes that we're going on a vacation tomorrow, but we both know we're going to be checking our emails. We're not going anywhere. All right.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for attending our Zoom.
Thank you.